Well, good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the G-Man Talks Boxing here for John Collins Live Television. And we're in a different venue this time. We're at the famous Uladag restaurant in the Kingsland Road. And I'm here with the G-Man himself and our special guest for this evening, Maurice and Aubyn, whose son-in-law, Leon Williams, of course, is a very noted professional. And Maurice himself has, been a aficionado of the noble art for many, many years. So, we're first going to talk our favourite division, which of course is the big men, the heavyweights. The heavyweights. Now, it was nice to see Don King looking a bit more frailer than he used to, because he's getting on a bit. But he still had that American flag. I don't know where. I think they'd have to carry him out in a coffin to get him rid of that American flag. He has to have it.
He took a kneel.
He took a what?
He took a kneel.
He took a kneel, yeah. And he was with his heavyweight, Bermain Stiverne, who's actually a Haitian American boxer, who of course went the distance with Deontay Wilder. Now this time, the world knows that it was a one-round blowout. So, what did that do, in your opinion, G-Man, what did that do for Mr. Wilder, blowing out Stiverne so easily?
Well, you know, we talked about Wilder v. AJ. Listen, being patriotic, I'm there with AJ. But we got to take notice. This man is serious. Wilder, 6'7" and weighing at 15 stone 10. Heavyweights take notice. He is serious. Very serious.
Well, on that point, sorry to cut you. On that point, you've got Joshua, who's who's much heavier and much more muscular, and you've got a real trimmed down Deontay Wilder, sort of between 15 and 16 stone, the same, actually taller than Joshua. So there's obviously a real difference between, who believes in the weights and who doesn't. Is there not?
Well, look, we got to look at the point for what it actually is. Stiverne. He done Stiverne, took his title away. Stiverne came in as a substitute. But what we have to take notice is that Wilder is serious. It doesn't matter who was in that ring. He was prepared. 6'7", 15 stone 10. You got to take notice. Take notice. This man is working hard and very hard. And we have, when you don't give your opponent respect, as they behave against Baloo, you know the consequences. When you're a champion, people come to fight you, they fight their best, they fight their A game. And when you're a champion, what destroys you more than anything else is complacency, attitude. So you have to have a right attitude. Wilder has a right attitude. So guys, take notice, he's working hard, he's serious, very serious.
Well, let's look at a fight between Wilder and AJ, because of course it's got to happen now, and I think that Wilder's got his stock has risen considerably after blowing away Stiverne. And of course, we said last week that he's had double the amount of fights that AJ has had nearly.
Correct.
So, AJ's a relatively new boxer even for the amateurs.
Okay.
Maurice, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've been watching boxing for many years, of course, and as I said, father-in-law of Leon Williams, former British champion at cruiserweight. I'm going to switch the camera over. If that fight happens, what I want to know is, I don't want to know who you think is going to win the fight. What I want to know is, how big a spectacle is that show going to be? Whether it's here, well, let me ask you this. How big a spectacle would it be in the United States of America? And how big a spectacle would it be here at Wembley?
It will be a huge spectacle anywhere. Both fighters are dynamic. Both of them have something to offer the public, what they want to see. Wilder is a much more fluent, agile boxer. We saw AJ powerful, aggressive, thoughtful, and all of those things. It's a tremendous fight to have in any bill. I think it will be a marvelous, marvelous contest anyway.
So where do you want to see it, Maurice? Do you want to see it in Las Vegas or do you want to see it in Wembley?
Las Vegas would have a tremendous amount of revenue for both fighters. I think they would want to have it in Las Vegas.
So it's a Vegas
You're
fight.
having a laugh. You're having a laugh. That got to be here, Mush. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Listen, listen. Let me explain something now. I just said to you a while ago, Wilder's working hard. He's 6'7", weighing 15 stone 10. But let me tell you something. AJ ain't no Stavern. Let's get that right. So don't get carried away with that result. AJ ain't gonna stand up there and get knocked down like that. No way. It's a different fight completely. You got a guy who is 18 stone, weighing at 18 stone salmon. When he got in the ring is about 21 stone. He can't move.
Listen,
You can't move.
listen. Last week you said put the monarchy. You didn't say put the house on AJ against Wilder. You said put the monarchy on AJ.
Patriotic got the best of me, but reality is a different situation. I'm a patriotic person, so therefore I'm representing my guy, but I'm also seeing the facts of what it is, and the facts of what it is, Wilder is working hard, but let's face it, he had a tomato can in front of him.
He had a tomato can. He had a ham and egger. He had he had a stiff. He had a dead body. He had someone from the A&E.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct.
Something with no pulse.
No pulse whatsoever. So you say it should be here at Wembley, and Maurice says
It will be here.
It will be here, and Maurice says it will be in Las Vegas.
Vegas don't have 80,000 people, 90,000 to go. Boxing is not big in America in that concept. Boxing is here. Here, this is where it's at. It's here.
Okay, let me ask.
Wembley,
Let me ask you.
100,000 people.
Parker is considered. Johnny Nelson said on the show the other day at Sky Show that Joseph Parker is considered to be the weakest of the four champions.
And we all agree on that.
Do we all agree on that, Maurice?
Not necessarily. I think all of them bring a lot to the table. Parker is also an unbeaten fighter. I think Parker has a lot to offer in the sense that he will give a lot more in terms of boxing, in terms of seeing everybody's skills in all different aspects.
But he's not a puncher, is he? Particularly.
Well, it doesn't show that on the record, but anyone is a puncher if you hit the person in the right place at the right time.
All right, so we've got Parker, and I do fancy that Wilder and AJ are going to fight. One of them's going to fight Parker before they actually get it on in the ring. Let's go back to Tyson Fury, because it seems to me that the commentator, the MC, Mike Buffer, he actually told Tyson Fury last week in Monaco that Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua would be the biggest fight in the history of boxing. That is what he said. Now, I know he's an MC, he's got a silken tongue and a silken voice. Is there merit, genuine merit, in that statement?
You know, I would like to see Tyson Fury come back. I would like to see Tyson Fury have a warm-up fight. I would like to see Tyson Fury probably take on Derek Chisora and let it go from there, because Derek Chisora, as we know, will give him a few rounds and we see where he is. He probably needs that. He probably don't think he needs that. But the thing about it, when you have a layoff is what it is, a layoff. You can't come back and go back just where you were before. So, you know, that's the kind of thing we're looking for. Make no mistakes about it. The big fight out there, at any point you're talking about, you have to talk about Anthony Joshua. He is the bank.
Right.
The bank.
So let's assume then that Fury wants to come back. It's been nearly 2 years now that since he's actually last boxed and had a licence. Now, I have to make this declaration that obviously, Gary, you're a British Boxing Board of Control man, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so you're fairly prohibited in what you can actually say, but there is
Sure.
something going on. So I'm going to put it to Maurice, who's not a board licence holder and can speak his mind on this particular subject. Hopefully. Tyson Fury is basically saying to the board that they're dragging their feet on giving him a licence. And it seems to me that things are going on that the general public don't know about. What, in your opinion, what is really stopping Tyson Fury from coming back? Is it himself, or is it issues that have not been made public?
I think this issue is a bit of each. It's issues that's not been made public. If the board had evidence to show any wrongdoing by Tyson Fury, they would have made it public. Tyson Fury himself, I don't think, is ready for a comeback yet. And when he's ready, the whole world will know about it.
So he's not ready, in your opinion, and there's evidence that hasn't, you know, the board, if the board had severe evidence of X, they would have shown it to Y by now.
Absolutely.
So it's down to Tyson then, really, is what you're saying.
I think it's a bit of each.
Like I said last week, when Mike Tyson came back, after 3 years in at Her Majesty's pleasure or at the President of the United States' pleasure, it was hard to see him come out a shrunken, diminished man. He never really recaptured it. I made this point last week. What Tyson Fury, he hasn't been in prison, it's nothing like that, but he's had this big layoff. Is he the kind of fighter that can actually pick it up after, say, 2.5 years being out the ring?
Tyson Fury is a professional fighter. They have enough time to get themselves in condition and to fight. I think if Tyson Fury wants to fight in 3 months' time, he can get into shape to do that. I don't think it's a difficult job. They're professional men.
Gary, G-Man.
Yes, sir.
Let's just put that question. Maurice says that after 3 months that in the gym, Tyson Fury will be able to recapture former glories, at least in principle in the gym. How are you feeling about that one? Is it down to the individual? Does it vary? Can fighters come back after long layoffs? Ali came back in style after 3 years. Tyson,
you've got fighters. You have fighters with different attitude. You've got fighters who are ferocious, who come in there and giving it this and that, and you've got fighters who's full of ring craft, and that is Tyson Fury. He has ring craft. He has science, knowledge. His box is not about how fit he is. His box is about what he knows, what he can do. He gets into your head. Most of them, when they go to fight Tyson Fury, what they don't understand is that they blow up. They blow up at the press conferences. They scream, they this, they want to kill him, they get all upset. And then when they get in the ring, they're flat.
Okay,
he wins the fight before he gets to the ring.
Let's have our last question. Okay, we're going to still be in the heavyweight division because that's where it's so exciting. And next week I promise that we'll do the super middleweights and the light heavyweights. We're in 2017. We're coming back up to Christmas Town now. Let's cast ourselves ahead 1 year. Okay, and we're at the very, very end of 2018. Okay, Gary, I'm going to ask you first, G-Man. At the end of 2018, who is going to be acknowledged as the #1 undisputed heavyweight champion by the Ring magazine, by the public, by the sanctioning bodies, by BoxRec? Who is it going to be? Who out of the 6, 7 contenders, including Tyson Fury, who's it going to be?
Excellent question.
You know, there's a fight taking part in December. That's a kerfuffle. That fight is David Haye and Bellew. That is going to be interesting.
Well, Bellew's #6 in the BoxRec rankings at heavyweight now.
Yeah. Never mind the paperwork. There's a kerfuffle in December. And if David Haye gets his head together, it's going to be a big surprise. He has to get his head together.
So hang on a minute. Are you telling me that in December 2018 that David Haye could be the #1 undisputed top-ranked heavyweight in the world?
Listen, there's not many heavyweights out there who has the artfulness of David Haye. If you looked at David Haye, he didn't even get stopped, and he was injured because he's a true champion. It's just that his attitude is not right. You can't be out the ring for 5 years and then come back and think you're going to fight anyone.
What about the injury?
I'm gonna direct Maurice. You'll have your turn in 2 seconds. Gary, G-Man has gone for David Haye, which is a very interesting and unusual. I didn't see that one coming, I've got to say. So I'm going to pose that same question, and then we're going to wrap it up for this week. Come 2018, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day, Boxing Day, who out of the current contenders and Tyson Fury and David Haye and even Shannon Briggs, Povetkin, Pulev, Ortiz, Joshua, Wilder, who out of all that pack is going to be standing last man standing? Who's it going to be in a year and a bit's time from now?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball.
Well, I'm asking you to have one.
What I will
That's
say.
what you need. You need to get off the fence, Maurice, because that.
What I will say is that the public all over the world would like to see what would happen if Deontay Wilder opens up on Anthony Joshua. how he's going to defend that.
Maurice, I'm asking you the question, okay, and you gave me a politician's answer, okay? I want to know, are you telling me that at 20,000, he's gone for David A, are you telling me that 2018 in December that Deontay Wilder is going to be acknowledged as the #1 heavyweight on the planet? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're from the fantastic Uladag restaurant. This is the second edition of G-Man
week.
Talks Boxing. See you next week.